Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Lisa with Lisa's Faith and Budget Planning channel. Wow, we are in chapter 5 of Healthy Me, Healthy Us, and we're almost done with the book. I can't believe it. Breaking it down one chapter a week has really helped me stay focused and willing to go on to the next chapter. I'm not a book reader. I'm not an avid reader at all because of my reading comprehension and physically how difficult it is visually for me to want to read. But I am so excited I have gotten through this book, and I've done it with you guys. You being on YouTube and talking about this book and just kind of expressing my feelings keeps me motivated, keeps me accountable, keeps me pushing forward. And so every Wednesday I've been posting these videos and I am excited. I have one more chapter left and a wrap up, and that'll be it for this series. So the series is almost over, but it's been a really good one. The book is really good. I really like it. And I definitely recommend it. So previous chapters, in case you're new to this and this is your first time watching, I'm reading Healthy Me, Healthy Us by Les and Leslie Perot. Let me see if I can find the cover to this on my iPad. There we go. And that's what it looks like. So if you're interested in this book, I definitely recommend it. It really makes you think. It really makes you think about you and your just life in general and how you deal with life. The purpose of the book was to, if you are healthy in your relationships with you, your relationship with you, you can be healthy in other relationships as well. You're only as healthy as you are in other relationships. So if you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself and have good conversations, whether it's self-talk conversations, which is chapter 1, or have or moving on from your past, which is chapter 2. Moving past your past is what that one's called. Uncovering your blind spots, what's obvious to everyone else, but not to you. Working through that and facing your fears, not anxiety, not adrenaline or anxiety fears, but more just facing general fears of being out there and living day-to-day life. And then the last section that I just read, reading your social barometer, chapter 5. And that's what tonight's video is on. And yeah, that was an interesting one. I listened through it twice, and I have the audio as well as the book itself, because I have to visually and auditorily hear and read what I'm looking at so I can actually comprehend and really take in what's being said. And it was very interesting. I wasn't sure the first time around what was being said, other than, this is social situations. This is how do you gauge, who you are in a social setting. And I find it very interesting. So let's dive into the first part of the reading your social barometer. That's an odd title to me. So anyways, first thing they talk about is, and they give you an example. You walk into a room and you're in a social situation, whether you're going to, let's say, a family reunion, or you're going to, let's say, a cookout or a church gathering or any work gathering, social situations. What thought races through your mind when you walk in the room? So they kind of broke this down a little bit, and I was trying to think, what happens to me when I walk into a room? What am I thinking that I don't realize I'm thinking? Which is very hard to do because, sometimes you just go to a social situation and just show up. You don't realize you have these thoughts. So I had to really go back and think, okay, the last time I did something, we had a cookout with some friends, and it was a home group where members of my church kind of gather together, and we meet at my house as a home group, and we take care of one another, and we fellowship and Bible study and all that stuff together, and we meet pretty regularly. So sometimes we go to each other's houses for cookouts or meetings like that. So the last one we had, I'm trying to remember how I walked in the room, and I think my first thought was just kind of taking in where everybody was at, how everybody seemed to be feeling, whether they were happy and joyful or if something was off a little bit, things like that. That's kind of how I approach, what am I walking into? What am I getting into? And I take a look at the people around me and observe the social situation I'm in. Well, as I read it, that's one of the questions that you can ask yourself on where you fall on the social barometer, finding your social barometer. So when you walk in the room, 2 questions, inevitably, no matter how this question is answered or what word phrasing you use, essentially it boils down to, how am I or how are they? Are you more focused on yourself and needing attention? So when you walk in the room, all eyes are on you, or are you going in and kind of seeing what's going on and where everybody is and how are they? And then you proceed from there. So it just depends on the situation, but I think for me, it's the how are they doing? Because I like to help people. I like to give to other people. I'm less about me and more about others. So, which can get unhealthy if you're not careful, but it is a good attribute to have. But yeah, so they talk about that. And they go into a little more detail about which is the better of the two and stuff. So I'll let you go in and read about that. But the next thing that they talk about, reading your social barometer. First, you're finding your social barometer. Are you thinking, how am I when I walk in a room doing, or how are they doing category? And then you go into reading your social barometer. So what I got out of that section was, and that's the first thing they say, 90% of your emotional communication, and this is a quote from the book, is nonverbal. And I think that's why when I walk into a room, I'm looking for how are they doing, because I'm raising 2 sons with autism, and verbal cues and nonverbal cues, a lot of them have to be taught. And so I'm very hyper aware of those kind of cues and how to explain them, because I've had to study what they are to explain them to my kids so they can understand them. So when they're out in a social situation I'm not a part of, they can have the best response to the situation as possible. So yeah, that's when you have an intellectual disability family member, those types of thoughts, those types of communications, those types of understanding of the world, in order for them to survive in the world, you literally have to break down the basics and go to psychology and teach them the things that they are not really aware of. Because one thing that autistics and many others have issues of, not just autistics, but anybody with those kind of disabilities, with intellectual disabilities, they don't have a lot of eye contact. So they're not seeing the emotional non-verbal cues. They're not looking at them. The brain isn't registering. Not that we see all 90% of them. We see some, and sometimes we don't see anything at all. So it's just because the way things happen very quickly. But when you're looking at someone who's upset, but you can't register in your own brain that person is upset because of this disability, you have to teach the facial cues and muscles that, hey, when they make this face, when they look this way, it's because they're upset. And here's an appropriate response to that. So I found that very fascinating, that reading your social barometer is very important to this situation, to taking care of who you are and being healthy in relationships. Some of us are completely oblivious to our social barometer, and we're right in people's faces and we don't realize how close we are, and it's intimidating and overwhelming. And then some of us are just so timid and shy and we're back, and then some of us can't read emotional cues at all. So yeah, that was really interesting to read, and especially in the context of my own family and how I've had to raise my sons and things like that. So being able to read and understand nonverbal communication and emotional cues can definitely improve upon your ability to read your social barometer on how you understand situations. So that's where that's at. I'm hoping I'm making sense because I'm having a hard time articulating some of this. Even though I understand what it's saying, it's hard to put it in actual words. So moving on, the next part I read, why we become socially insecure. And that was a pretty good part because it talks about 3 different pitfalls that we can come into. First one is a very common one that I've heard is comparing ourselves to others. Comparison is the thief of joy is something I've heard before. Comparison is insecurity. If you are comparing your wealth, your physical appearance, your family, your lifestyle, your anything, your knowledge of one particular subject or topic or another, how much school you've had or whatever, if you're comparing anything about yourself with someone else, you are being insecure. And that can happen in the social realm as well. You can have the person who's completely popular, who can completely be out there socially and still feel completely insecure. And you may not even recognize that they're feeling that way. And yet they do. We all have our own insecurities, but sometimes it's greater in some and then others. So that's pitfall number 1. Pitfall number 2, shyness. Now, everyone is shy to a degree, but when it's an extreme shyness or it hinders your ability to be social or hinders your ability to have those social relationships and stuff like that, this is part of insecurity, which is pretty much obvious. And there's ways and techniques to move past that and grow forward in that. So that's part of being healthy me, so you can be healthy us with other relationships. If you're that extremely shy, it's good to, how do I build from where I'm shy now to be less shy for the future, but still not overwhelm myself or put myself in a bad, difficult situation or traumatic situation trying to get past it. So shyness is definitely a pitfall, but we all have some bit of shyness. So pitfall number 3, sensitivity to criticism. And they gave a really good example to criticism. There's a couple of types of people in the world that deal with criticism. You have someone who can take criticism and use it as a tool, and they used Walt Disney as their example. And then you have those that can't handle criticism at all, and it just shuts them down. And then you have varying degrees in between. Walt Disney was one of those people that when someone gave him criticism, he would go to 10 people and bring a project, and how they criticized the project would help him decide on how to improve on a project. And I went, oh my gosh, I can't do that. Oh no, that's overwhelming. But he thrived off of criticism, not as a weird thing, but just as a thing, as a tool. And I never had considered that concept, that taking in criticism from several sources when you're working on a project could help the project. I mean, I still feel like, and almost felt like I was taught, that you have to have it all right. And a little bit of criticism is okay, but anything more than that is not good, and your project's not good. So I would be devastated with a lot of criticism. I couldn't go have 10 people criticize just to build and improve upon. But he thrived off of it. I'm the complete opposite. So I found that very fascinating. The next part was the fundamental social skills. And part of that was basically coming up and asking quality questions in conversations and social situations. Not just, hey, how are you today? You know, it's a great question to ask, only if you really mean it. What they were talking about here is questions to get to know someone. And you can get in a conversation, a social situation with someone new. Let's say you're in a cab and the cab driver just chit-chatting with you, and you ask probative questions that really kind of inspire him to really share more about himself. Then you realize you've been asking all the questions and he's been sharing all about himself. And this is kind of the example in the book. But then the cab rides over and they get out and he goes, wow, it was great to get to know you. And you're like, the cab driver, you didn't ask me any questions. You don't even know who I am. It's because he answered so many questions and he really enjoyed being the center of attention and really enjoyed giving all that information to someone else that he didn't realize he wasn't doing a back and forth with someone, asking them questions and what was important to them, what they liked. He was just telling them all about himself, which he really seemed to enjoy to do. So I was like, that is a good cue to remember. And this is a good thing for me because I can help my kids understand. And my kids are pretty much adults. I still call them kids though. 16 and 20, almost 22. Yeah, they're pretty much adults. But it's still good for them to practice that kind of social situation, back and forth conversation, where you have quality questions and really active listening back and forth. So a lot of give and take there. Then they go into the fruit of a healthy relationship. I'm checking my notes. So the fruit of a healthy relationships, there were 3 that they mentioned. Fruit 1 is confidentiality. Basis of a lot of good friendships, especially close ones, you can talk in confidence one another without the betrayal of somebody whispering, oh, don't tell such and such I said this. That's not a healthy relationship because this is a secret. They wanted to share. They needed to get something off their chest and have someone to bounce this off of. And now you've told someone else. And that, if that's ever discovered, that's going to cause strife in the relationship. So, with your social barometer, you're looking at going, okay, am I somebody with the fruit of confidentiality? Can I keep that confidence? Even if they go and talk to someone else, am I willing to be that kind of person for them? Fruit number 2 is honesty. Unswerving honesty. I mean, that, when they say honesty is the best policy, it really is. Long time ago, I decided that I had to be honest with myself. I was always honest with other people. That was never an issue. But I would not be honest by omission. So I would hold back. I wouldn't say things, or I wouldn't share things, or I would hurt someone's feelings, or I don't want to make them feel bad, or things like that. After a while, I was drowning in trying to people please everyone and not hurt anyone's feelings. And because I was drowning, I couldn't take it much more. And what I learned was honesty, and taking that risk of being honest was much better and made for more healthy relationships than if I wasn't honest, and because I was omitting something that was bothering me or upsetting me. And I discovered who my real friends were and my real not just loved ones, but who I could trust within my own family, and who I could trust with my friends, and who could handle healthy relationships like that. Sometimes you just have friends that just on the surface, they just want to hear what they want to hear. And they don't want the criticism. They don't want the information of, well, this bothered you. To them, they're like, oh, well, you're not a good enough friend, so never mind. And when you're honest up front, and the first time you have to do something like that, that's uncomfortable, you really discover who and what your friends are, and proceed with the friendship and relationship a lot more healthier than you realize. And a lot of times I never would lose my friends or anything like that, and I wouldn't cause issues with my family, but it did cause uncomfortable moments. But it was healthier on the other side, because they came back and realized, I'm glad she said that. I know it upset me in the time, but now it's not that big a deal, and we still have a friendship, and we just move on. That's all there is to it. So I like that one. And then the last thing I wrote down here is fruit number 3, personal space. Sometimes some people are not aware of personal space. They're like right there. They're right just face to face with you. And some people have too much personal space and too solitary. Both extreme is not that good for you. So having a balance in personal space, giving someone time and solitude when they need it, but also being there in the relationship and engaging in that is also important too. So I like this chapter. It was a little challenging to read as far as kind of like a social barometer theme of it. Other than that, I did really enjoy it, and it was really, really good. So I hope when you get to read it, you like it too. The last chapter that I'll be reading or talking about next week after reading it is stepping into another's shoes. And I thought, wow, that's interesting, because I try, but sometimes I don't get it. So I'm curious to see what's in that chapter that may help enhance how I can see someone else's side, or how I can step in someone else's shoes. And I think we need more of that in the world. If we can empathize and really get an understanding on someone else's perspective, we would have a really well-rounded, amazing relationship with one another in our country, in our nation, in our communities, and in our families that we probably haven't seen ever in generations. So I'm really excited to look at that, stepping into another's shoes, and see how I can actually apply it to my day-to-day life and moving forward in life from here. So I hope you're enjoying these videos. I hope I'm making sense, and I'm enjoying doing them. Thank you so much for watching. It means everything to me that you do watch this channel and these episodes of Healthy Me, Healthy Us. In the future, I hope to do more of these books, or a Bible study, one or the other. I'm not sure what's next. I haven't come across anything that's, yeah, let's do this. I haven't gotten there yet, but I am excited to do so. So I will see you guys next time, and have an amazing and blessed day. Bye.